6 to-dos. So maybe we can start off there and then move on. So the first to-do was the meeting with Sam to discuss the oncology module, and I think that was done. We had a meeting. We put the notes down, and one of the items on the notes was to have some conduct a presentation sometime this week, early this week. But we still haven't heard from Sam. I sent him an email, and this morning we tried to call him. So we're hoping that if he can, that he'll make the presentation before the week's end, so that we can begin strategizing on the way forward. If we need to fix or modify or change some of the stuff that he's written, we can give ourselves ample time to get it done. Or if we need to look at another solution, we can, we have lots of time to do that as well. So that was the first to do. I don't know is there anybody who has anything to add on that, or shall I just move on to the next to do?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something about that, because my understanding was there was a demonstration on that module at some point. Is that right?
The only demonstration I know is the one that he had with us.
That's it?
That's it. He's never had one with Kenny and the rest of the guys, and Martin and those guys. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what we were hoping he was going to have this week.
Yeah, then I think we need to get that done ASAP, because we don't have that much time. And yeah, first of all, what is going on with the solution we discussed last week?
I haven't talked to him. I've written him some emails. He hasn't responded. We were looking for a number this morning. We want to give him a call because the model looked fine. You remember he had no issue with it. In fact, I think he agreed with the model of using the role-based home login model. So I don't know. I don't know if he's incorporated it into the oncology module or if he hasn't.
Yeah, so I mean, while we were waiting for him, I could have tested that, but I tried to clone that code and I just realized it is hosted on Mercurio, and I'm not very familiar with Mercurio. Actually, and I couldn't. But if I think you have that code. So basically, when you look at that controller, what you want to do is to get rid of that redirection which is doing the role thing, and then use the role-based module because it works, and do the redirection there using the role-based homepage module. And then you can just try that one feature, and if it works, then the remaining thing will be to do the demonstration, and that will be easy on us, because now the time taken to maybe I think the time will take to just follow up on Sam, whether to wait for him answering the emails or picking up our calls. We can use the fraction of it just to try testing that feature out.
Okay. I'll just put down to do that. I mean, I think we have some experience with Mercurial. It's not that different from Git. So we'll just build that. We'll include that role-based home login module, and then I'll build everything and share it with everyone on a Git repo. And we'll also run it on an OpenMRS instance and see how it runs.
Yeah. Okay. If we could do that, that's the only thing that I couldn't do. I couldn't get the code, so I couldn't try. I wanted to just go ahead and try that feature myself.
Yeah.
But it's actually you can do it. Yeah.
Actually, it's just a G clone. It's like the commands are almost synonymous with Git.
Yeah, I couldn't. The issue was installing that Mercurial. There was something on my machine that I had to fix, and it seemed to be taking a lot of my time. So I just abandoned it because I had to do some other things that had higher priorities. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's not an issue. We'll set up we'll look at the controller, remove those sections that have the login intercept, replace those with the calls to the module, load both modules, and run them on OpenMRS and see how it looks like.
See, Regan, actually, you don't even need to replace the call to the. You don't need to. What you need to do is to get rid of that controller that is doing the redirection. It shouldn't be there. And then when you load role-based home page module, you'll get all the roles that are defined in the system, and then you'll say that these particular roles, they're supposed to go to this particular page, and that's it. It takes care of everything itself.
Oh, wow, that's even easier.
Yeah, it's so easy. It's so easy that it is amazing. I was like, this is this easy, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So when the call is done, I'll get that done, and then we can all have a look at that and how it runs.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, but we'll still. I know we don't want to wait for Sam, but we'll still keep trying to reach him, and see what happens.
Yeah, what I'm trying to stress is like that task seems to be so easy. We can easily try it without having to wait for Sam to do it.
Yeah. Agreed. Anyway. Okay. So I don't know if anybody has anything else. We can move on to the second item, which is Anthony was to install and explore using the reference application, the 2.0.
Yeah, I installed it, but then there are a few things I couldn't do because I think it requires setting some stuff like I think default identifier type, then some things to do with the provider. So I just installed it, so the interface it brings, navigated a few links, and though I didn't test much of the functionalities. Unfortunately, I've been away. Just came back today.
Okay, so I think we can plan to, but I think the focus is on just getting the oncology module done. So we'll work on that, and then if we have some time later on in the day, we can see if we can sort out those issues on the reference app. Okay. Then the next was Willa was to fix some HL7 related error messages, something to do with person or provider errors, ID errors.
Sorry guys, I was talking to myself. I was on mute. Are you looking on the wiki page, Dragon?
Yes, I am.
It is strange. I can't get to dev call pages. But if you look at that page, the last week's page, I think that item is checked. It is done.
It's not checked. I guess I don't know what's up.
Okay, it is anyway. It is done. So it was those things. It was those errors were related to the forms coming from remote sites were using person IDs to represent patients instead of using no, not patients. Person ID to represent providers instead of using provider IDs. And my understanding is prior to, I think we discussed this before, prior to 1.9, these things they used to match. There were correspondence, there was correspondence between provider ID and person ID. So basically, when these forms came in and the formats of XSLT used to import them, they were being translated to be interpreted as provider IDs being interpreted as person IDs. So what happens is whenever the system tries to look these people using the provider ID, using that number as provider ID, it couldn't locate them. So basically, I just changed the HL7 to make the HL7 handler to interpret that number provided as person ID, and then the forms were processed.
Okay.
So it was done, yeah.
Okay. So you changed the handler rather than the XSLT?
No, not the handler. I changed the HL7 themselves.
Okay.
I had to do it manually because actually I wanted to do it using to get them using a script and then modify them, post them, but it was kind of difficult, so I had to modify them manually and then reposted them, and then they were processed.
So you're still getting a person ID, and then you're you're trying to convert that to a provider?
No, I didn't try to. It is the other way around. So what happens is when this data that is collected in remote sites, they are collected with providers are being represented using the person IDs, which were basically their provider IDs, but the form entry that is being used in those remote sites collects information using the provider ID that, I mean, the database had the provider ID and person ID matching. They were the same. Like if you have the provider ID is 2, the person ID is also 2. So what happens is now you have they're not matching. You can have a person with person ID 2, but the provider is totally different. So when this data came in, the HL7 handler interpreted them as provider ID because the XSLT we're using, that's what it does. It is interpreting these numbers as provider ID. So what I had to do is to change the HL7 message such that the handler will interpret them as person ID. And that's what I did.
But they are referencing, so the person IDs, but the data is representing provider, or a provider for like the encounter or something?
The data is, what? I didn't get that.
You said you're sending a person ID, but what is the person? Who is that person? That
Provider.
person?
The provider, not patient. The provider.
Yeah. So it's the provider. So there's multiple problems. You may have it working for now, but there's multiple problems that can bite us in the future because a person can have multiple provider accounts. So referring to a provider through their person ID is ambiguous. So it might work for now if we have one-to-one, but that won't be forever. There's another problem is that we can't assume going forward that person IDs will match across servers. So ideally, we would use either UUID or we would use an identifier. So you may have it working for now, but that's it's a fragile workflow that will need to get fixed.
Yeah, the problem we are having, that problem is because the remote site, they're not yet on 197. They are still on 1.8. So the data is coming according to 1.8 version. And that's why we had to do that. But if we upgrade this to 197, the data will be coming according to what is accepted in 197. And they won't have to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I think this is probably a good point. We spent most of the morning with Miancha looking at some of those HL7 issues. And I don't know, it seems as though that particular issue is more common than we thought. So like for instance, I'll give you an example. We were just looking at an exception where for some reason HL7 messages, whatever content was in a HL7 message is not inserted into a database, because apparently a preferred identifier has not been set. So I don't know if you guys tackled that well, but we thought it was weird because that has nothing to do with the data. And we thought that this would be something that would probably have been entered when somebody is registering a patient, far before data for that patient was coming in. Right? And it seems like a significant number of patients have that. They don't have the preferred provider set. Did you guys come across? It's somewhat different.
It is. I think it is preferred. That is the error. It is complaining that the person doesn't have. And you said you are checking this on HL7?
No, I don't think it's in the HL7 because the HL7. But whatever is in the HL7 is not inserted into the database because the form entry module throws that error. It says we can't insert this HL7 data because the patient identifier, the preferred patient identifier, hasn't been set, which was weird, we thought, because that should not, it's not in the HL7, it shouldn't affect whatever data is inserted.
Regan, actually, when I was looking into this problem, okay, maybe I was talking to Miancha, we did this the whole time, and the issue is, actually, it's not even the format. The format is not throwing that error. When you get data from remote site, the remote format is the one that is coding that message, the XML files, to be in a format that is except for the central server, and then put them in the form entry queue. The form entry queue is the one that processes that into it processes those files into HL7 queue, and then the HL7 handler will handle the stuff, and then everything is good. Then you get the information in the system. So what happens is when remote form entry is converting this HL7, this XML files, that's when we get this error. There are two errors which are very common. I've seen them so many times when I was trying this, and I haven't yet figured out at which point in code this happens. First, it is complaining. It says duplicate identifier used by this patient, and I took random patients from those XML forms and tried to check those identifiers, and it didn't seem. They just had one identifier. So I was looking through to see what is happening. Anyway, there are other errors which were not related to this we're trying to fix. But basically, on this, I haven't figured out at which point this particular error is being thrown and why. So because sometimes it seems like it is coming from core, it says the exception actually it is API exception. And it happens when you're trying to use the method that is throwing this particular error. I think it is update patient info. Something like that. The name is like that. And this happens when the patient.save method is called, which is the API method. So I think there is an interceptor or advice that is doing some things. I haven't yet figured it out. That is causing this error. And the other is that one, which is the preferred identifier not set. So basically, those are the two problems, and they are related to remote form entry. They have nothing to do with form entry module, and that's why when you are just when you are submitting data through the info forms, everything works just fine because form entry is just working fine.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I don't know. I mean, we're still going through it, trying to exactly understand how remote form entry and form entry work, because it seemed to.
Yeah. So
remote form entry doesn't do much. It doesn't do much other than just to unzip and put those XMLs in the queue, the form entry queue.
Yeah. A form entry was designed to take an XML document from InfoPath, translate it through XSLT into an HL7 message, and then send that through a standard mechanism for receiving HL7 messages, just like the lab might send. And so that's why those conversions are done. XML comes from InfoPath, and the XSLT turns it into an HL7 message. Remote form entry is really just intercepting that InfoPath payload, that XML, at the remote site and bringing it to central, and then throwing it in where it would have gone if you had used InfoPath at the central site.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Regan, go ahead.
No, okay. Well, that's exactly what our understanding was. And that's why we thought that any error that actually is being thrown is probably being thrown by form entry, because that's the one that's really doing the bulk of the work. And anyway, when it comes to processing those XMLs and converting them to HL7 through XSLT, that's what we thought. And we were looking at the logs. I'm trying to get those logs, but I remember seeing that they were actually being thrown by form entry, not remote form entry. I could be wrong, but I think that's the case.
Yeah, so maybe I should share what I've been doing the whole night. So basically, that was my understanding also. And all this time yesterday when we had this conversation with Miacha, I was like, basically when you look at the HL7 in queue error, I don't see anything. So it seems like this is strange. I don't see any error, and you guys were saying you're processing forms and they're not getting in. So the whole time my understanding was the remote form entry, what basically does is just throwing this stuff there, and form entry should do its thing. But apparently that's not what is happening. So what I did is I said, okay, let me see exactly what form entry is doing. So I restarted those servers, and then I stopped the form entry task. Like the only task that was running, it was to process the data from remote site into the system. This task it's called the central something remote form entry task. So that's the only task that is running. And it's still, when we are importing those files, those errors were being thrown. And if you look at that error, actually, somewhere at the line of code says org OpenMRS module remote form entry create update patient. That's where the error is being thrown. And then just above it, on the stack trace, you have the error, patient service, patient save, patient, that kind of an error. So I've been going through that error so many times that now I remember. I mean, it is like photographic memory. I remember exactly what kind of error I was saying there. And basically, that was happening with form entry turned off. So when I went through the code, apparently there are some other things that are happening before remote form entry through this XML. Actually, there's some kind of transformation that is being done before this XML is being put into form entry queue so that the form entry can process it. So basically, yeah, conceptually, that is how simple you can describe what remote form entry is doing, but there are a lot more details than this simple conceptual description of what remote form entry is supposedly to be doing.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And form entry is designed, you know, if you're on the system using InfoPath, you've registered the patient, then you fill out the form. So you register the patient within AMRS. Then you go into InfoPath, fill out the form, and submit the form. It goes through the form entry queue. There's never a situation where you could fill out a form on a patient that doesn't exist.
That's right.
With remote form entry, it's very possible that the person created a patient at the remote site, and then they filled out a form. Well, the patient was created within that remote site, within its database, and so the only information about that new patient is in that form, you know, the header of that form. And so when remote form entry gets it, one step that it needs to do is look and see, does this patient exist? If they don't exist, I need to create the patient so that when I put this in the form entry queue, there'll be a patient there for it to match. And so if it's finding some kind of error with saving patient information, it's likely for those cases where it's a new patient or there's updated information about the patient or demographics or relationships, and it's trying to update that information and getting an error.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly what is happening. And the thing is, these kind of errors. So the issue was, the problem I was forcing is the error is coming from this process of updating the patient information or creating the new one, but the error was it wasn't really what is supposed to be thrown, because the two common errors. Actually, I think they are the only two. I haven't seen any related stage. It says duplicate identifier. When I went into the system when checking the identifier, I just find one patient with that identifier. I mean, no. I mean, the patient just has only one that type of identifier, just one, and that's exactly one that is being reported as duplicate on the error logs. And then the other one is the preferred identifier. Wait, anyway, that I didn't check that until now. So basically, I don't know why. And to complicate things, there is an advice. There's an interceptor that is doing something that caused this to happen. So yeah. So this is.
It might be a validator or something that's doing.
Yeah, actually it is a validator. Sorry. Yeah, it is a validator that's doing that. Yeah, that's the error thrown by a validator. So.
Yeah, I agree, Willa. And in addition, did you notice that a lot of the errors being put on the error queue are because of the XML documents? Like a lot of invalid, like it seems as though they weren't properly formatted. Like, the date is incorrect. Like, for instance, the date has characters that shouldn't be there. The XML document is incomplete, so some tags have been opened, so you get a premature end of file error. Did you notice that as well?
Which error queue?
So when you log on to the AMRS database in the form entry, the form entry errors table.
Which one did you check?
Actually, we're looking at about the last 100, 200. Most of them actually have that error. They're saying there's something wrong with the XML document. So the specific error is unable to transform to HL7, and then more information is there. A lot of them is invalid date. The XML document is, does not have correct structure or things like that.
Yeah, those might be there, and those have nothing to do with the patient. They have to do with which is good. I mean, at that point, that is good. Now, the problem I think I saw some different, yeah, I saw some different, and then I shifted my focus to this patient thing because it didn't make sense to me that much. And there are so many other errors related to this duplicate patient identifier and the the one you just mentioned, the preferred identifier not set.
Yeah.
These have to do with the updating the patient thing. Now, when you pass this stage, then comes the passing the XML, I think, and that's when you get these errors related to the format of stuff in the XML document. Yeah, I've seen some of those.
Okay, okay. It's just that they seemed to be very numerous. A lot of them. So, our feeling was perhaps if those were resolved, they could probably account for, I don't know, maybe 50, 60% probably of all the forms that are not being processed.
50%? Okay, I didn't, from what I've seen, I think the ones corresponding to these errors I've been mentioning, there are a lot more compared to other errors.
Okay, because I remember we looked at thousands and thousands of records, and we were ordering them by date. So we were hoping to get the forms that were last processed. And the errors that came out from the forms that were just processed, a lot of them were XML errors.
Yeah, you could try look into, did you look for this Saturday, the forms which were processed on Saturday?
No, we just went in and looked at the forms that were there, the forms that were in the queue.
Look for those which were processed on Saturday, because these errors happened on Saturday when they were importing forms from remote. And you'll notice that most of errors are those that I've mentioned.
Okay, fine. I mean, the form entry errors table has a timestamp, so we'll just see when these errors were thrown and then compare them with the ones that were uploaded on Saturday. It's just that I thought that was really interesting. We had a lot of those XML structure errors.
Yeah, there are so many errors actually. If you look at that form, I mean, you look at the error queue, there are a lot of errors, more than 25,000 errors.
Okay.
So one question, Willa.
Yes.
In the past, I think in the past we used to have that information showing up on the error queue I don't know what none of them shows. So maybe someone when he try to view what they see the.
You're breaking up.
No, I'm just talking about the same remote form entry errors, because in the past they used to have a viewer where you would go in and see the errors that are there,
Yeah.
but you can no longer see them. So someone might think there are no errors, and yet there are many errors. Probably also need to look at that.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
I tried to load that page on my computer here, and it didn't load. So I didn't know what's going on with that, and I wasn't very much focused on that at this point, because I was thinking fixing those errors was more important now than trying to fix that page. So basically, are you getting that page with like 0 errors?
Yeah, I get that, but I know because time I used to see those errors, but one day we woke up and there was nothing, and at that time it used to be like there were a few. Now we have thousands of them, but by that time there were less than 5,000.
Wait, that is remote form interest? Yeah, I think. Okay, well, but you can see these errors on form entry errors queue. So yeah, not in database. There is also a page. If you go to administration, you will see the form entry error queue. When you click that, you will see the errors. Although the interface is not very good because you have to use the drop down to select the. I think it's the ID. That one, I'm not sure if it is the ID or it's just a number 1, 2, 3 until the last error, and then you get the second number to get the range. You have to select the range from the first number to the last. So you have these 2 drop downs, which is not very great. So I was thinking of, okay, when I was looking at it, I was thinking maybe we should work on that and change it to something that is more meaningful, like what we see in HL7 error queue. Like you have the list of errors, you can see the HL7 there, you can see the short version of the error message. That would be a lot more helpful than having this 2 fields here to select the range and then download it and then extract it. And And basically, you just get the XML. You don't even get the error.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll keep having a look at it and sharing what we find with you, and then you can see what's up. Yeah. Okay. No, I was just confirming. I was logged on, and you are right. It's actually a remote form entry exception. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
So that's interesting. So remote form can actually, to some extent, run independently. Okay. Anyway, we'll keep having a look. Okay. So on the last
Really,
item.
it's not okay. Just to make to clarify something, it's not really independent because basically it is using form entry, but it doesn't need the task to be
Yeah.
running, because what it needs is it is just loading some of those classes in some parts of the code. It is using the code from the form entry to do it stuff like when it is converting the form to, it's creating a form entry. It is creating the form in the form entry queue. It needs to call some method from the form entry. So basically, I just stopped the task. The form entry was still there, so the code was still there. Jar files were available, and the classes could be loaded.
Okay. We'll work on like I said, and I think you said the same thing, which is there's a whole set of different kinds of errors.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking at that. What are the ticket numbers? I don't see. It looks like the notes page for this call is blank. Are there ticket numbers for these issues that I could follow?
yeah, the parent I think is 259, AMRS 259. There should be a subtask there specifically for this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And I see Win just posted one as well. So Win, is this exception, is it part of the list of exceptions that we have listed on AMRS 259? The one that you just pasted?
I just checked the log from Tomcat. I will check the 259.
Okay. Because I think this is the first JSP error that we are facing. I don't think we've dealt with any JSP errors. So.
Yeah, if it's not part of it, I will add it in under that ticket, I think.
Okay. Yes, we can probably move on because I know we'll probably be spending a lot of time after this on that item, on the HL7 issue. So the last, okay.
Regan, have you? So did you create a ticket on this? I thought that's what you meant when you said.
No, I thought there was a ticket. There should be a ticket on HL7, on the HL7 number 2. If you look
Okay.
at,
yeah, that is forms not doing due to wrong HL7 source. No, this is different. This is, we should have another ticket because this is different.
Yeah, you're right. This is different. Okay, so let me create that. I'll create that and then add it there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so so the last to do was Regan and we're supposed to look at the info path forms and narrow down the search. So the search was very flexible. It was looking for terms that contained the query, for results that have the query term. So the guys say they don't want that. They just want They want specific results, not results that have the query term, but results that are only similar to the query term entirely. So we'll still work on that and get that done. Yeah. So those were the to-dos from last week's call. There aren't any agenda items for today's call, so I don't know if you'd like to bring up Boniface?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for what you're doing and recognize that you're putting in efforts to make sure you sort out the issues that we have. But basically, I wanted to mention something else that is within those tickets. Basically, so that my main purpose is to highlight key things that are blocking the processes that we have with people using the system. There is still a bug there. Ticket was filed, and I tried my best to move it up so that it can hang somewhere within the topmost priorities. I know you're working on other issues, but basically I just wanted to highlight one other issue that probably you'll need to look at, see how you can organize your resources and probably flip through just to find out. Because again, if IDs are not generated, people will not get issued IDs at the sites while they're enrolling into care. So possibly, if you find time, please try and look at that. But it's under MRS 259 is MRS 270. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Boniface. So yeah, that's actually one of these. We did have a look at MRS 270 just to give some context. Just as Boniface said, there's an issue generating IDs, identifiers. When we looked at the stack trace, the specific error was a cast issue. So apparently some part of the code tries to cast a long into an integer, and that's where the exception of. So we thought that this was most likely a code. I don't think this is due to a configuration issue, but I guess when this is ended, we can look at that as well. Okay. One of the issues, as Anthony is whispering behind here, is that we couldn't get the code. We can't get the source code to the module, and I think it was written by Mike Seaton. So I guess we'll probably just IM him and see if we can get the link to the module, to the source of the module from him. Okay.
I know there's something else that Wheeler had also requested from me concerning code issue. Probably might want to combine the
yeah, the module. Wheeler, did you get the source code for the role-based home login module?
I was talking to myself again.
I think we made the ID card module.
Okay. Do you have the source back? Could you share the link to the repo? Because we couldn't get it on the.
The repo could be still in the SPN, the old SPN.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where the role-based module is there also.
Okay. So could you send the link to that? So I guess the ID cards module source is probably there as well.
Yeah, I can see it there. It's under svn.openmrs.org. If you look under modules, ID cards.
I pasted the link in the chat.
Yeah, so we need to Mavenize that module to get it into Git.
Okay, we'll probably do that because we need to start work on this. So I guess when we're done with that, we'll Mavenize it and convert it to Git.
Yeah, there's a script for Mavenizing. I'll find that wiki page and paste it into the chat.
Cool. ID cards. Okay. Great. Okay. Fine. Okay, fine. So that's it. So I don't know. Does anybody have anything else to raise for today's call? Okay. Okay then. Then thanks everyone. See you next week.
When it comes to migrating to Git, if you can run the script and it easily will Mavenize the module, I may try to do that real quick. Then we can get that change committed to Subversion. Only a few people still have write access to that repository. I'm one of them, and then we can perform a migration. Ideally we like to do it in a way that preserves the history of what's in Subversion. So I'll take a look and see if I can manually, if I can run the script and it runs without problems and the module still compiles, then I may just go ahead and, because I also have a virtual machine that has Subversion to Git installed on it and set up, so it's relatively easy for me to make that migration as long as it converts to Maven without complaining.
Wait, Buck, you're saying that the script is able to convert the commit messages from SVN and
No, there's a script that Ben Wolf wrote that will Mavenize a module, and if that script runs without problems, basically turning the module into a Maven format that will kind of rearranges things, and if the module compiles easily after that script is run, all that really does is move things around. And if that works without any issues, then I can easily then commit that back to Subversion, and then there's a program called Subversion to Git that takes a Subversion repository and converts it into a Git repository, and it's described on the on that wiki page I shared, but I have a virtual machine set up where I've done dozens of those, and so if I can get it to work pretty quickly, I'll just see if I can migrate that module for you. If I run into a problem, I'll write to the Ampath Dev list and just let you know that I need help getting it, figuring out how to Mavenize it.
Okay. Thanks, Buck. Okay then. So thanks everyone. So I guess we'll see each other next week.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Really? No, next week. Anthony's just playing. Next week.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
Ciao.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Anthony.
Yes, sir.